What is the FABLE Calculator? In this presentation, we will introduce you to the FABLE Calculator, a powerful tool designed to analyze and quantify the impacts of different assumptions and scenarios on food and land use systems. Using practical examples, we will demonstrate how the calculator can help us build tailored pathways, evaluate trade-offs and synergies of policy decisions, and gain valuable insights into the complexities of achieving sustainable food systems and land use targets at the national and global levels. The FABLE Calculator is a free, open-access, integrated model developed in Excel designed to analyze food systems and land use. It focuses on agriculture as the primary driver of land use change and assesses the impact of various policies and changes in these systems through a wide range of scenarios. The model uses data from 2000 to 2020 for calibration, primarily based on FAO data. It provides results for 83 products at 5-year intervals from 2025 to 2050. The timeline can be extended if needed, and users are encouraged to replace FAO data with national and regional information for more accurate analysis. The model predicts future consumption of food, feed, and other non-food uses, as well as future losses and waste, imports and exports, production, land use, water use, and more, all at the product level. These product level results are then compiled to provide aggregated outcomes. The calculator covers a wide selection of products, including crops, processed crops, and livestock products. With the FABLE Calculator, we want to answer the question, what will happen if? The model allows you to test and quantify the impact of various assumptions and scenarios on key factors, such as dietary changes, the evolution of imports and exports, growth in crop and livestock productivity, the adoption of new agricultural practices, and many others. It helps assess how these changes affect greenhouse gas emissions, food security, land use, and biodiversity at the country level. By simulating and combining different scenarios, the model provides valuable insights into the potential outcomes of these decisions. The model follows several steps. Steps 1 to 4 focus on determining target consumption and production levels, which represent the desired outcomes without any constraints. The second part, from step 5 to 10, recalculates these variables after applying user-defined constraints, such as land limitations, to provide the feasible levels of consumption or production. The first step is to compute the targeted human demand. Based on assumptions about dietary shifts and population changes, the model predicts human consumption until 2050. The model is demand-driven, meaning it estimates the required amount of food for the population from 2025 to 2050. It also considers exports and imports, which can be customized by the user. Using human consumption data, the model calculates required levels of livestock production to meet demand. Next, the model calculates targeted crop production, which is influenced by both domestic and foreign demand for crops. It also considers crops used as livestock feed, and users can assume changes in technical crop productivity, shifts from rain-fed areas to irrigated areas, or implementation of various agroecological practices. All of these scenarios have an impact on overall crop productivity. In step 4, the model determines the required agricultural area. The extension of pasture and is changed over time depends on the number of animals needed to meet human demand, as well as changes in ruminant density between 2020 and 2050. Stocking more animals in the same area would result in a decrease in pasture land. Step 4 also determines the land use change of cropland, forests, other land, and also of new forests if afforestation targets have been selected by the user. Step 5 involves adjusting for land constraints, such as halting deforestation after 2030 or limiting agricultural land expansion. These land use constraints will feed back into the model, influencing the feasibility of consumption and production. After this crucial step, the model recomputes all steps in reverse to determine the feasible levels of consumption and production, and finally, the results are calculated at both the product and aggregated level. Our model offers endless possibilities to shape your own pathway through multiple scenarios and inputs. The following are the main scenarios that we can play with. Fundamental elements like population, dietary changes, and food waste are key to projecting human demand. For instance, we can simulate a scenario where a country follows its official national dietary guidelines, or one where no meat or animal products are consumed, and observe the impact on land use change. Conversely, we can explore what would happen if milk and meat consumption were to increase and analyze those consequences on GHG emissions. The model also allows us to manipulate crop and livestock productivity, ruminant density, and restrictions on agricultural land expansion. For example, higher livestock productivity would mean fewer animals are needed to produce the same amount of animal products, reducing GHG emissions and freeing up land, which would then be used for afforestation or other purposes. And speaking of afforestation, we can also set a target for that, along with the expansion of protected areas. In the model, protected areas are zones that cannot be converted into agricultural land, effectively limiting the expansion of productive land. Trade is another dimension considered in the FABLE Calculator. Users can set the volume of agricultural products imported or exported from 2025 to 2050. Scenarios can reflect spikes in exports, future trade agreements, or even disruptions in global production caused by regional conflicts. Agricultural land change can also be influenced by increasing irrigated areas, as irrigated crops tend to grow faster and yield more than rain-fed crops, reducing the amount of land needed. The implementation of agroecological practices could further affect future yields while enhancing biodiversity. Additionally, the model can simulate the effects of temperature increases on crop productivity, producing insights into climate change impacts. And finally, urban areas and settlement expansion can also be incorporated into the analysis, completing studies on land use change, as well as biofuel demand and post-harvest losses. By combining these variables, the model provides a comprehensive framework to explore the intricate relationships between policies, practices, and outcomes across multiple dimensions. We've explored the wide range of inputs the model can accommodate. Now let's dive into the results and outputs it generates. Even though scenarios primarily reflect impacts at the country level, the evolution of demand and supply in the rest of the world are also taken into account through the Senathon process. Senathons, which stand for scenario marathons, enable the integration of multiple country calculators to ensure consistent trade balances across countries. More information on this is available on the website senathon.org. Furthermore, it is possible to apply trade results from another global model as a constraint in this model. The key output indicators provided by the FABLE Calculator can be grouped into three main categories. The first category is food and nutrition security, where the model provides insights such as the average daily calorie consumption per capita, the minimum daily energy requirement from 2025 to 2050, the average protein and fat consumption per capita, and the average diet composition compared to recommendations from Eat Lancet. The second category includes socioeconomic indicators such as employment in agriculture, the costs of agricultural production, including labor, fertilizers, and pesticides, machinery, and diesel, as well as the agricultural trade balance. Finally, the third category covers environmental indicators. These include GHG emissions from livestock, crops, and land use change, water use for irrigation, deforestation, and other land conversion, land-based biodiversity indicators such as the biodiversity score, the percentage of land in protected areas, and the share of land where natural processes predominate, as well as the application of nitrogen and phosphorus. Let's now have a look at an example of how a scenario change, specifically a dietary shift, affects the results such as land use. In the table, we have selected the current INSP scenario designed by the Mexico FABLE team in collaboration with the National Institute of Public Health of Mexico. This scenario considers a target diet for 2050 with a significant drop in cereal consumption, vegetable oils, sugar, and pork, while red meat, milk, and roots increase compared to 2020. When combined with other scenarios, the land use projection for 2050 shows a large share allocated to pasture land in red, a stable forest area from 2020 to 2050 in green, and a slight decrease in cropland in yellow. Now let's switch from the current diet to a healthy diet, also designed by NSP, and observe how this change impacts land use change. Compared to the previous diet, the healthy diet scenario shows a decrease in cereals, as well as a lower consumption of sugar, red meat, and milk, but an increase in fruit, vegetables, pulses, and nuts. The impact of this diet on land is clear. Now, pastureland in red decreases and becomes the second most important land use after forests in green. However, unlike the previous diet where cropland saw a slight decrease, in this pathway, cropland remains stable. In this slide, you can see more clearly the difference of the two diets in terms of impact on land use coverage. Here's an example of a policy brief published by FABLE in 2021, focusing on the impact of dietary shifts at both global and national scales. This analysis was conducted using the FABLE Calculator. Through this study, we were able to highlight some of the system-wide implications of transitioning towards healthier diets, and the study also helped disentangle the specific impacts of adopting healthier diets from the broader combined impacts of changes assumed in the sustainable pathway. In fact, we demonstrated how assumptions about dietary shifts can cascade through food and land use systems, influencing cropland composition, herd size, and agricultural land abandonment. This results in shifts in greenhouse gas emissions from cropland, pasture, and land use change. Thank you for tuning in. If you're interested, you can watch the next video, which will dive into the calculator structure, the main Excel formulas, and show you how to select and design your own scenarios and pathways. If you have any questions or need assistance, please don't hesitate to reach out to clara.duzal@unsdsn.org. Thank you.